Kong had been raised far from Seoul, in a world of polished glass towers and sunlit courtyards. His father had given him the best schools, the best tutors, the best life money could buy. He was meant to be the son who stayed clean, far from the shadows that clung to their name. But Kong was obsessed. Obsessed with the whispers of mafia legends he overheard in late-night calls. Obsessed with the stories of blood and power, of men who ruled with fear. At boarding school, while other boys studied business and law, Kong read smuggled novels about gang wars. He trained his fists, studied weapons online, drew tattoos he promised himself he would one day wear. To his father's horror, Kong wasn't dreaming of boardrooms. He was dreaming of smoke-filled rooms where men swore loyalty over spilled whiskey and blood. So the day he turned 21, he returned to Korea. The town wasn't his, not yet. But Kong paraded himself like a king already crowned. He moved through the streets with bodyguards behind him, his suits pressed sharp, his eyes sharper. He borrowed his father's connections, twisting them into something darker. He made shopkeepers bow. He threatened men who didn't owe him a thing. He collected debts where none existed, staged scenes to make himself look feared. To the real mafia, Kong was still a child playing dress-up. But to the small town he now walked through, he was the Prince of Chaos. His father warned him. His mother begged him. But Kong only smiled. He thought he was untouchable. He thought fear made him powerful. Then came the night of the Mafian private party. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers. Kong strutted in like it was his coronation, guards at his back, a glass of expensive champagne in his hand. He laughed loudly, shook hands too hard, demanded attention wherever he walked. And then she appeared. Naomi Jackson. She was unlike anyone in the room, a black American performer whose dance silenced the crowd. Her movements were fire and water all at once, dangerous and soft, breaking through the music like it was made for her alone. For the first time, Kong didn't laugh. He stared. And when the performance ended, he decided she was his. Backstage, Naomi wiped sweat from her brow, catching her breath. That was when Kong entered. He blocked the door with his guards, cutting off her escape. "Dance again," he ordered. "But this time. Just for me." Naomi straightened, eyes sharp, but Kong didn't stop. He stepped closer, brushed his fingers against her chin, tilting her face toward him. "You move like fire," he said with a smirk. "And fire belongs to the one strong enough to control it." Naomi slapped his hand away. But the room tilted suddenly. Kong had already signaled his men. They forced her to bow, pushing her to her knees. Kong chuckled, towering over her. "This," he said, raising his glass, "is how the next boss is entertained." Naomi looked up at him then, her lips curling into a smile colder than ice. Her voice was low, steady, and sharp enough to cut through the noise of the party outside. "You'll regret this." Kong laughed. He thought it was just pride speaking. But when the music ended, and the lights went out, Kang's story of power ended too. Because when he woke again, he was no longer free. He was Naomi's prisoner. And in her territory too. Kong woke in silk sheets and marble walls, but it was no palace. The barred windows and locked doors told him the truth. A golden prison. He screamed until his voice cracked. He kicked the door until his foot throbbed. No one answered. Until she did. Naomi Jackson swept into the room in crimson silk, every step deliberate, her eyes gleaming with amusement. "Good morning, Prince," she said, voice dripping with mockery. "Do you enjoy your new kingdom?" Kong glared. "Let me out." Naomi ignored him. She poured wine into a crystal glass, then shoved it into his chest. "Pour for me." When he refused, she slapped the glass from his hands. Red wine splattered across the carpet like blood. "Do it," she hissed. Kang's fists curled. For a moment, he wanted to strike her. Instead, he obeyed, the humiliation clawing at his pride. She sipped slowly, savoring his defeat. The next days were war. She demanded he kneel at her feet during meals. He resisted. They fought, shouting until guards rushed in. Once, he shoved the table over in defiance, plates shattering across the marble floor. Naomi only laughed, high, sharp, unbothered. "You think you're strong," she taunted. "But here? You're nothing." But then she changed. One evening, Kong found her on the balcony, barefoot, tears glistening in her eyes. She looked small, fragile. "I hate this," she whispered, not looking at him. "I hate being cruel. But it's the only way people stay. If I'm soft, they leave." Her voice cracked. Before Kong could respond, she turned, pressing her forehead against his chest. Her hands clutched at his shirt like a child. "Don't leave me," she begged. "Please. Just stay." For a heartbeat, Kang's fury wavered. Something inside him ached at her trembling. And then she laughed. Pulled away. Her eyes hardened into steel again. "You actually believed me?" she sneered. Pathetic. The whiplash became his daily torment. Some nights, Naomi danced for him, slow and graceful, then pulled him close, whispering sweet words that almost sounded like love. Her lips brushed his cheek, her hand lingered in his hair. Other nights, she became a storm, throwing glass at the walls, screaming until her voice broke, mocking his weakness, forcing him to bow before her like a servant. Kong realized something terrifying. Naomi wasn't just cruel. She was unpredictable. And that made her more dangerous than any gangster he had ever dreamed of becoming. Because in this golden prison, every day was a gamble. Would she break him with hate? Or with tenderness? Kong had always thought himself untouchable. The heir of Kong Taemin. A boy born into wealth, raised abroad, but obsessed with the idea of power, of blood, of mafia legends. In his head, he wasn't just a son, he was a prince destined for the throne of Seoul's underground. But here, in Naomi Jackson's mansion, all of that was being stripped away. Every day chipped at his pride. Every hour reduced him to less than the man he thought he was. Naomi woke him early, always on her terms. Sometimes she threw open the curtains violently, flooding the room with light until Kong groaned and turned away. Other times, she dragged him by the wrist into the grand dining hall, forcing him to sit while she ate, without offering him a single bite. One morning, she pushed a tray at him. Rich foods, untouched. She leaned back in her chair, chin resting in her hand. "Feed me," she ordered. Kong froze. "What?" Her eyes glimmered. "Didn't you hear me, Prince? Feed me." His jaw clenched, but she waited, her lips curved, her gaze daring. Finally, with trembling hands, he lifted a fork and fed her. "Good boy," she whispered after each bite, smiling sweetly, until Kong shoved the tray away in fury. Naomi only laughed, her laughter echoing through the hall like broken glass. Afternoons belonged to her madness. She would dance, barefoot, wild, spinning in silk gowns until she collapsed onto the marble floor. Then she'd snap her fingers at Kong. "Play." He sat at the piano, his fingers stiff, reluctant. She danced to every note, sometimes graceful, sometimes manic, her body moving like she was exorcising demons. When he faltered, she stopped and glared. Again. "You don't stop until I stop." So he played until his hands ached, until sweat slicked his forehead. And when she was satisfied, she walked over, placed her hand gently on his cheek, and kissed his temple. "See?" she whispered. "You're useful." For a fleeting moment, it almost felt tender. Almost. But then her expression hardened. She pushed him back against the piano with sudden violence, the keys clashing beneath him. "Don't mistake this for mercy," she said coldly. "You're mine because I allow you to be." That night, Kang finally snapped. She tossed a book at him, a thick volume of poetry, demanding he read aloud. Exhausted, humiliated, he threw it back at her feet. "I'm not your servant," he shouted. Naomi froze, then laughed. But her laughter wasn't amused, it was wild, sharp, unhinged. "Not my servant?" She stepped closer, eyes blazing. "Then what are you? A gangster prince? A king?" She shoved him hard in the chest. "Prove it." Kang grabbed her wrists and shoved back, his fury boiling over. They struggled violently, slamming into the wall, neither willing to yield. Her breath hit his face, ragged and uneven, her eyes glimmering with both rage and something dangerously close to desire. "Kill me, then," she whispered, her lips curling. "Or admit you need me." Kang froze. His grip loosened. He couldn't do either. Naomi smirked, victorious. "You're weaker than I thought," she said softly, pulling away. Later, Kang found her collapsed on the ballroom floor, shivering, her gown torn, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "They left me," she whispered over and over, rocking herself. "Everyone leaves. My father, my mother, my lovers. All of them. And when they leave, the voices come back." Her words cracked. Her body shook. For once, there was no cruelty in her voice. Only fear. Kang hesitated, every instinct screaming to walk away, to hate her. But something heavier pushed him forward. He crouched beside her, his hand brushing her trembling shoulder. Naomi clung to him instantly, her nails digging into his shirt, her head pressed against his chest. "Don't leave me too," she begged, her voice raw, broken. For the first time, Kang held her, not out of love, not out of mercy, but because he couldn't bear the emptiness in her voice. And in that moment, he realized something horrifying. He wasn't just Naomi's prisoner anymore. He was her anchor. The next morning, she returned to cruelty as though the night before had never happened. She strutted into his room, lips painted, eyes cold. She poured herself wine, handed him the glass. "Pour," she ordered. Kang's jaw tightened, but he obeyed. When he set the glass down, she leaned in close, her lips grazing his ear. "You'll never leave me now," she whispered, her voice soft but dangerous. "Because I own you. Body, heart, and soul." And the worst part was, Kang knew she wasn't entirely wrong. Because somewhere between the humiliations, the fights, and the breakdowns, Naomi Jackson had begun to carve herself into him. And piece by piece, the Prince of Kang was breaking. For weeks, Kang had felt the cracks. Guards relaxing at their posts, doors left unlocked, Naomi growing softer, almost fragile. It didn't add up. And when he finally forced the study door open, the truth struck harder than any fist. The letters bore the Kang family crest. His father's hand scrawled across them in cold, precise words. "Let him stay with her a while. Let the illusions of the gutters be buried there. If he returns to soul hungry for power, we lose him. This is how we save him, by letting those Mafian dreams rot before they become blood." Kang's fists trembled. His father had given him away, not to punish, but to erase him. The door clicked. Naomi stepped in with a tray of fruit, humming a tune. She froze at the sight of the letters in his grip. "What are you doing in here?" Kang's voice cracked with rage. "Reading my death sentence." He threw the letters at her feet. "This was never about the party. Not about you. My father sent me here to kill the man I wanted to be." Naomi stared down at the papers. For a beat, her face was blank. Then something snapped. She laughed, sharp, unhinged. The tray slipped from her hands, fruit rolling across the floor. "You're lying," she muttered, clutching her head. "You're lying." Her voice rose, splintering. She snatched the lamp from the desk and hurled it, glass exploding inches from Kang's face. Then she tore books from the shelves, flinging them wildly. Her breaths came in jagged bursts, her eyes wide and unfocused. "Stop!" Kang roared, grabbing her wrists mid-swing as she tried to smash another vase. She struggled like a wild animal, screaming in his face, biting at his arm until his skin burned. Then, as suddenly as the storm began, she collapsed. Knees hitting the floor. Her screams broke into sobs. She clawed at her own arms, trembling violently. "Don't leave me!" she gasped. Don't go. If you go, I'll disappear. I'll die, Kang. Don't." Kang staggered back, chest heaving. His father's betrayal already tore through him like fire, but seeing Naomi unravel made the world tilt. She wasn't just cruel. She was broken. Dangerous. But broken. He turned for the door. The hallway wasn't empty. Naomi's uncles and cousins stood there, arms crossed, their faces hard. "You'll stay," one of them said, calm but iron. Kang's voice was a snarl. "Move. Now." They didn't flinch. "She's stable with you. Without you, she unravels. You've seen it yourself. You don't leave, not anymore." Behind him, Naomi crawled forward on the floor, reaching for him with trembling hands, her voice raw. "Please. Don't leave me. Please." Kang's chest burned with fury, betrayal, and a twisted ache he couldn't name. His father had thrown him here to kill his dream. Naomi's family now shackled him to keep her alive. And Naomi herself, half lover, half captor, clung to him like a lifeline he never asked to be. The cage wasn't made of locks. It was made of people. And he was trapped in all of them. Kang didn't sleep that night. Not after the letters. Not after Naomi's storm. Not after seeing the cold certainty in her family's eyes. He lay awake, staring at the gilded ceiling, realizing for the first time that he wasn't a gangster, not a prisoner, not even a son. He was a tool. A tool for his father's ambition, for Naomi's survival, for her family's control. And he decided, tools could still break. The mansion was a labyrinth, but Kang had spent months studying it. The patrols, the blind corners, the rooms that connected like arteries. At dawn, while Naomi was asleep, he slipped past her guards. He moved silently, heart pounding, until the outer gates came into view. The taste of freedom was almost there, almost. "Where are you going, Kang?" Naomi's voice sliced through the courtyard. She was barefoot, still in her nightgown, hair disheveled, eyes wide with the fever of someone half asleep but fully dangerous. He froze. Guards stepped out of the shadows. The gates slammed shut. Naomi walked toward him slowly, trembling, but her lips curled into a smile. "You were going to leave me," she whispered. "After everything." Her voice shifted, soft, then sharp. Sweet, then venomous. "Do you think they'll let you? Do you think I'll let you?" Kang's fists clenched. "I don't belong here. I never did." Naomi's expression cracked. A tear slipped, but her smile widened. "No, now you belong to me." She leaned close, her whisper like a blade, "And if you try again, Kang, I'll bleed for you. Right here. Right in front of them. And you'll live with the guilt." Her threat wasn't a bluff, and he knew it. The guards dragged him back inside. Days blurred into a cycle of fire and ice. Naomi grew unpredictable. One morning, she sat by the piano, singing softly, pulling him to sit beside her, pressing his hand to her heart as if he anchored her. That night, she struck him across the face for turning away from her touch. She threw tantrums, broke glasses, screamed in his face, and then collapsed into his chest sobbing, whispering apologies over and over. Her cruelty cut him raw. Her tenderness bound the wound shut. And the cycle left Kong weaker, more unsteady, more entangled in her madness. But inside, a storm brewed. Kong wasn't the only one noticing Naomi's shifts. Her father and uncles observed quietly from the edges, whispering in corridors. He overheard one late-night exchange outside his room. "She hasn't harmed herself in weeks. She listens when he speaks. He stabilizes her. He grounds her. We cannot lose this. He stays." Kong pressed his ear harder to the door, rage twisting in his gut. They weren't saving her for her sake. They were saving her to protect their empire, their reputation. And he was the leash they had chosen to tie her with. He realized with bitter clarity, this wasn't about love. It wasn't about family. It was control, always control. The breaking point came one evening. Naomi cornered him in the drawing room, her eyes bloodshot, her hands shaking. "You don't look at me," she accused. "Not the way I look at you. You think of leaving. I can see it in your eyes." Kang's voice was sharp. "Because I am leaving. I was never yours to keep." Her breath hitched. Then she laughed, a hollow, jagged sound. "You can't. You won't. Because you're mine. Even if you hate me, Kong, you're mine." She lunged at him, shoving him against the wall, her nails digging into his chest through his shirt. Her kiss was desperate, broken, more like a claim than affection. He pushed her back, fury sparking in his veins. "You're sick," he spat. "And they've chained me to your sickness like it's my destiny." For a moment, Naomi just stared at him. Then her expression shifted. Calm. Too calm. "You'll see, Kong," she whispered. "One day you'll stop fighting. Because you'll realize no one else can have you. Not your father. Not the world. Only me." Her words chilled him deeper than her violence ever could. That night, Kong sat alone in his room, his face lit by the moonlight spilling through the window. His fists clenched until his knuckles turned white. He wasn't just trapped anymore. He was drowning. And every hand that reached for him, his father's, Naomi's, her family's, only pushed him deeper under. But Kong swore, teeth gritted, chest burning. He would escape. Not just the mansion. Not just Naomi. He would escape all of them. Even if it meant burning the world down. Kong had been in the mansion for nearly a year. A gilded prison. A nightmare dressed in velvet. Every day, Naomi's moods spiraled faster, joy, rage, tenderness, cruelty, like shifting tides pulling him deeper. Every night, he lay awake, plotting, waiting for the moment he could finally shatter the cage. And then, the moment came. It began at dinner. The family was gathered, Naomi's father, her uncles, Naomi herself sitting at the long head table. Kong sat opposite, eyes cold, barely touching the food. Her father spoke calmly, his tone final. "You are not leaving, Kong. You've done more for Naomi than anyone else ever could. You belong here now. With her. With us." Kang's jaw tightened. "I don't belong to any of you." The room stilled. Naomi's fork slipped from her fingers. Her hands trembled. "Kong," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why are you saying that? After everything, after me." "Because it's the truth," he snapped. "This was never my choice. My father sent me here to break me. And you," his eyes blazed at Naomi. "You're the chain they've tied me with." Naomi's breath came fast, shallow. Her pupils widened, her lips trembling between a sob and a smile. "No, no, Kong. You love me. You must." "I don't." The words cut sharper than a blade. Naomi stood so suddenly her chair toppled backward. Her laugh was high-pitched, wild, echoing off the walls. "You don't? You don't?" she screamed. "After everything I gave you, after everything I am for you, you want to leave me like everyone else?" Her family tensed, ready to intervene, but none dared step closer. Naomi grabbed a glass, hurled it at the wall where it shattered. Then she turned the jagged stem toward her own wrist. "If you go, Kong, if you leave me, I'll end it. Right here. Right now." Kang's chest heaved. His fists shook. Every instinct screamed to run, but something else, something raw and human, made him step forward. "Naomi," he whispered, voice rough. "Stop. Please." For a fleeting second, her expression softened. Tears slid down her face. She dropped the glass. She clutched his shirt with trembling hands. "You can't leave me," she sobbed. "I won't let you." And in her desperation, in her madness, she kissed him, messy, broken, soaked with tears. He didn't push her away this time. But his eyes were cold, even as hers burned. That night, Kong packed his things in secret. The letter from his father still burned in his pocket, every word a brand. "You were sent here to end your dreams, not fulfill them." He was done being their pawn. Done being Naomi's cure. Done being anyone's prisoner. But when he reached the gates, a voice stopped him. "Naomi." She stood barefoot in the courtyard, her dress fluttering in the midnight wind, her face pale but her eyes blazing. "You really thought you could leave me?" she said softly. Too softly. "Naomi." "No." Her scream tore through the silence. "You'll never escape me. Because I'll always be with you, Kong. Always." Her hand went to her stomach. Slowly. Deliberately. She said, "I am pregnant for you, Kong." And that was the beginning of the end for Kong.